Welcome back to the most professional StarCraft 2 with the three-time and current world champion and widely considered the greatest player of all time. The Zerg in the blue, the finisher. It's Serral, facing off against the only player who can keep up with him. The rank 1 Terran in the world, the Frenchman from Team Liquid in the red. We have Clem in a best of 5 Terran versus Zerg. The RSL Season 6 tournament playoffs with the grand finals held at BlizzCon in person next month. So before we get started, it'd be incredible if you could smash that like button, maybe even subscribe. And we got the algorithm. And Jimmy, what do we have? 1,887 likes on this video, on this cast. I'll cast another one. And I'll probably do it anyways, because I don't know what else I do with my life. But thank you for watching. Hopefully, you've had a good day so far. And hopefully it's about to get just a little bit better. As the first Reaper comes in and tries to make the Zerglings' lives as short as possible, but the Zerglings coming out just in time to make sure the drones aren't first on the agenda. Queen pops out. Reaper decides on a bit of a softer target, emotionally and physically. A drone? Close enough, but stretches into a Spore Crawler to dodge the last shot. The Queen will escort the Reaper out. The Reaper will somewhat scornfully leave the premises, at least for now. But it will heal. And it will stick around, but hit Serral. He snuck a drone out so early that even though there was an SCV and then a Reaper Scout, he's able to get his third hatchery. Only a few seconds behind Clem, who has his, well, Clem doesn't have any hatcheries, to be clear, for the pedantic nerds out there, but that was a little repetitive. Redundant for the pedantic nerds out there, but a third command center on the way. His command center is only 300 minerals. This is their first meeting on the new StarCraft 2 patch. After a couple hot fixes with ghosts now having less HP, but costing less supply, having more damage, being uninterruptible when they're lining up those snipes. The command center at 300 as opposed to 400 minerals. Zerg with about 7% more larva, at least before the injects kick in. So, and one of the bigger buffs for Zerg is the Carapace upgrade, costing 50 minerals and gas less at each stage, which has definitely helped out Zergs in having a more well-rounded defense. But defense is going to be very important, as Clem already has Hellions on the way across, the Reaper, poking and prodding at the edges, the 1-1-1, the Barracks, the Factory, the Starport, the Destiny Cloudfist build. Believe maybe was called in some sort of fever dream at some point. But the ability to just keep control of the situation and having a Banshee, cloak or otherwise, essentially precludes any sort of attack from Zerg. Unless you're willing to gamble at all on either the Banshee being out of position or not existing in the first place. Which, Serral, not much of a gambler, in my experience and his career overall. Instead, whatever the opposite is, just dictating the pace of the game and feeling like he's 2 steps ahead. So that way, he doesn't have to sprint. He definitely isn't as blazingly fast as either the Hellions or the player controlling them. But he doesn't need to be if you work smarter and not harder. Just always seems to be exactly in position to block the early pressure, build up enough economy, and then overwhelm with a superior economy. But, well, Clem already landing his third command center, only a few workers behind, and with the mules that those orbital commands are able to drop, certainly can catch up in terms of raw income. And with the Banshee coming in, forcing some Spore Crawlers, the Banshee just a split second behind, loses one drone, and the Queens will at least look longingly at the Banshee and hopefully drive it back more physically as time goes on. 58 drones, layer now completing. Notably, no evolution chambers. And even more notably, a Spire. Mutas on the way. More than likely, it's not going to be Corruptors, unless this is the most ridiculous and game-changing meta I've ever seen. But speaking of seeing, the Queen's unable to spot the Banshees, at least until the Overseer gets close enough and get off my crib! Brenda, I don't, not game 1. Oh, whatever. I know. And the second Banshee take it out as well. What do the Queens want to save? Wow, everything going wrong. A bit of uncharacteristic mistakes out of Clem. Losing both Banshees and not even getting a queen for his trouble? Not that that would balance it out, but it would certainly tilt the scales just a bit. So, yeah, that's about as good as it gets. The Banshee's entire purpose is to keep the queens anchored at home, to make sure they have to split between creep spread and defense, and constantly have to bring spore crawlers and invest more in defense than in overall economy. But losing both Banshees immediately, doing effectively no damage, that's what we like to call in the business a bad. So, with mutas on the way, even though Clem's going to have the Marines, the Medevacs, the Mines, the M&M, the mutas will not be torn as to their purpose, which is to tear apart as many Marines and Medevacs and then SCVs as possible. Serral still doesn't have a huge economic advantage, but it really depends. Baneling speed is not done, and everything before Bane speed is pretty much target practice for Clem. But with this many mutas above, it actually could change things pretty dramatically. The Widowmines are dragged out. Oh yeah, Widowmines fire 20% faster. But mutas are a little more microable. That's what arc slot means without getting too far into the weeds. But they were changed to be a little more forgiving on stutter stepping, is my experience. It's a little bit easier to pick off units without committing the mutas entirely to probably being in range of Marines and Widowmines. But of course, with Widowmines firing significantly more quickly, they're quite an existential threat, which Serral is very much aware of at this stage. He's got Lings and Banes. The combat shield not yet done. 2-2 upgrades have begun. Clem, though, not so far not having very much fun. And if he's not careful, he's going to be forced, at the very least, to run. He's had his time in the sun. But for now, the mutas. Not a ton. But the SCVs will be looking pretty glum. I'm done. But, oh, Widowmines hidden in the corner, but the refinery under fire. A few SCVs incidentally will be hit by the glaive. Several taken out. Clem going forward instead of going back because it's a fool's errand to try to just outright defend against the mutas, especially if the Zerg is already on 4 bases to 3. He knows he has the upgrades. There's not even +1 melee attack. The Hellbat's out in front, trying to form a battle line. But how far will they get? Not far enough. Another army over to the right flank. The mutas driven away by the reinforcing Marines, and Clem just has so many units. A 4th command center is landing. 68 to 86 workers. The hatchery is not canceled, which is a few less minerals for Serral. Not that he's hurting too much for him, but everything counts, especially between these two. Picks up. Mutas not in production, very notably. And the Widowmines, oh no, he leads them through the minefield. Down go 2 mutas. The medevac as well. Splits off a single Zergling to defuse the mine, is one way to put it. More mutas in production, +1 flyer attack completed. Very important to get those fire attack upgrades. I think mostly, well, just in general, but especially for picking off things like Widowmines, ideally before they can turn a muta into significantly more pieces of muta. But speaking of, no drilling claws out of Clem. Not starting that drilling claws upgrade is actually quite a huge mistake. And while the queens will be slammed by the Widowmines, it's not, well, that's the best case scenario. As unlike any other unit on the field besides Overlords at this point, they can survive multiple hits. The muta count continuing to grow. Serral does not have an infestation pit. That means he can't go to Hive, get those +3 upgrades or tech. And Clem just targets down some Banes. Widowmine slams in. Another mine at the back. Chunking up some of the Banes, but there's still several underneath. Does he have the target fire? Autumn colors. He can't even get close to those Banes. Another Widowmine almost drags it into the army. There's still 5-6 Banes behind. He's just going to have to pick up. Serral actually supply blocked from losing too many Overseers. Clem not supply blocked from losing too many Marines and medevacs. But another army comes into the 4th base. Widowmines will burrow down. The lack of drilling claws, it should have already been done, but instead, it's far from being delivered. He did notice but maybe too little too late. Targets every single Baneling. And the Mutas will fight. The Banelings will make sure the Marines either die or get picked up and die there. Muta's chasing it down. Clem still high on supply. Infestation Pit is on the way for Serral. He's got the economy to go to Hive, and I believe he will do so almost immediately. But Clem has 2-2 upgrades. He's been untouched economically. It is just Mutas, Lings, and Banelings. And eventually, Clem hasn't started 3-3, which is the main advantage of Terran. As time goes on, the scan spots the Hive beginning. And the Mutas flapping their way across. There's the Lings and Banes back at home to defend. The Widow Mines aren't enough. Some Changelings just kind of standing around. But a missile turret is taken out, and Clem scrambling back to defend, pulling back all of his units off the field. And he hasn't started 3-3. The lack of key upgrades at key times is a defining characteristic of this game, and by no means is Serral in an immediately winning position. But every second that Clem does not get these upgrades is another one that brings Serral closer to having his Hive tech. And that's absolutely critical. If he's able to get Ultralisk Adrenal Glands, it's already looking difficult for Clem despite being near 200 supply. But he seems tied to just going for the big... He starts +3. I can't help but feel he just didn't notice that these upgrades had started. Or rather, more importantly, did not start. The Widowmons gonna take a few more bites, but they haven't been enough. Clem picks up, routed from the field. Serral, it's time. Ultralisk Cavern. Okay, he thought about it. He wanted the Ultralisk Cavern so badly that he almost built 2 right off the bat. That's actually kind of crazy. At almost the same time. I wonder if he was debating going for chitinous plating and ultra speed at once. Clem has to know. He saw the Hive. He knows the range of times it could have been completed. More Widow Mines. Decent hits. There's enough bio to keep the mines from triggering easily. Meanwhile, more mines and Marines over to the right side. Serral, 77 drones is not a huge economy, especially compared with Clem's 78 SCVs. Another hatchery to the south will be slammed, and Serral needs to survive the onslaught for another minute or 2. Oh! Widowmine does terrible, terrible damage. He loses 12 Banelings to that mine, I'm reasonably sure. And only the Banelings that get taken out before attacking show up. But Serral slamming into the planetary to the north side. Banelings will take out the SCVs and add damage to the planetary alike. 19 SCVs dead, but Clem stimming forward. There's still plenty of Lings and Banes back at home. Serral will roll in multiple Widowmines and tries to drag out the shots. Big hits on both sides as the Widowmons don't discriminate. But the Mutas flapping forward, the Thor trying to counter. Clem starting to dip in supply. Serral with plenty. Chitinous plating on the way. I say plenty because he's adding Infestors, and he could be adding Ultras momentarily, but he chooses not to. Does he even know about this base? Clem has so aggressively expanded. That's his saving grace right now. Serral did not expect this base to be ready. And now he doesn't actually really have the Mutas to challenge it. He's going to take out the missile turret, but Clem's still moving forward. Serral keeping it together. Clem has kept the pressure on. The hatchery was taken out sometime in the last fight. The amount of damage from the not even +3, and he didn't even get +3 armor. Serral's going to have +3 carapace not too far behind the weapons upgrade. And the Infestors are on the field. The Ultralisks are in production. Clem is down to 51 workers and dropping precipitously as the Mutas still finding value as he slowly trades them out. And then trades back into them as 5 more Mutas enter production at this relatively late hour. 20 Mutas is a nice comfortable number. Enough to easily target down Widow Mines and Medivacs in a single volley, take out missile turrets, but not so many they're a liability. If you go over 20 Mutas, then such a huge proportion of your army is a Mutalist, it becomes a huge Muta risk. So, Serral wants enough to be an existential threat to Clem in general, just hanging over his head like the wings of Damocles. But also, of course, still have enough on the ground to potentially roll him if he gets too far forward. But they're both at 200 supply. Clem at 142. But he doesn't have any ghosts, no liberators, doesn't even have +3 infantry armor. So his army is fragile. Relatively. But the glass cannons of Terran, with the Marines, the Marauders, and the Mines, and the Medevacs to back them up, there's one Ultralisk. There's no other, there's a few Infestors involved. It's unclear where, over on the other side of the map, but Clem is expanding aggressively down the center as well. Meanwhile, the Muta's trying to come by. Fungal hits something at the front. We don't mind. Serral pulling back. Ultralisk, but a Thor is here helping to zone out the Mutas. It's just an orbital command. Oh, and a huge Fungal! Oh no! And Clem's gonna lose almost all of the Medevacs. A few will be able to retreat, the ones that hadn't yet made it to the front. But clearly that counterattack distracting me and Clem simultaneously. Which I'm saying I'm pretty much Clem, alright? Like and subscribe if you agree. Or engage. And Clem, just like that, loses in a single fight in a single minute 10 Medevacs. Serral only lost an Infestor and 2 Mutas. He lost 29 Banelings, but I think well worth it at this stage. And Serral, just besides the tiny, tiny rock, the Mule Rock, an island in a sea of income inequality, Serral maintains a firm grasp of map control, of supply, and right now, very much of the game. The Mutas are flying in, stacking up for the Thor, though. The Ultras growing in number, the Infestors building energy. Overseer kiting back a single Fungal at this stage could easily spell disaster for Clem. And right now, it's all falling apart. He still doesn't have +3 infantry armor, only +1 mech armor. Almost everything knocked out of the sky by the remarkably effective Mutas. The Zergling counters and the Bio Army might dodge the Fungals, but the stims they take to do it have left him in a desperate state. The Orbital Command is even more vulnerable, a single Thor, and I can't help but feel this is the hill that Clem dies on. Ugh! That's just French for GG. Clem taps it out. And Serral with an absolute grand master class. The Mutas, and it wasn't easy, but it was decisive. Serral cutting through the defenses with the Mutas, swinging in at the last moment in order to maximize the damage while minimizing the losses. That's just a good investment. The Mutas finding more and more value. And Clem, with a few key missteps, losing the Banshees, delaying the Drilling Claws. You cannot afford any mistakes against Serral. And even if he was able to continue, it wasn't nearly enough to turn the tide. It feels like, honestly, after the Banshees were removed, then Serral, that's literally a weight off your shoulders. It is... I'm 1/3 Zerg myself, and on both sides of the matchup, the effectiveness of those two Banshees, it's not even that, like, the Banshees existing, they don't even have to do damage. It's great if they do, but it's much better for the Banshees to be alive on the edge of the creep, annoying the Queens, than it is for them to trade even if they cancel a fourth base. Clem knows that. Some of his most successful games against Serral, we've seen those Banshees be a continued missile-based thorn in his side. Like, literally living through 15 minutes of the game, even with Mutas out. Because they drag the attention, and you can't just lose them. Yes, we are at this level. No amount of worker count changes, no amount of adjusting the cost of one thing or another is going to change the fact that these matches will rest on the tiny mistakes that they rarely make. Clem able to keep up economically, and even though he clearly found opportunities to get damage, Serral just looking inevitable. Waiting on the counterattacks, using the Mutas. Well, he used the Mutas like the Banshees. No, like in a similar way the Banshees are usually used. Yes, I'll do a lot of damage. Yes, I could hurt you. I won't because it might cost me, but the threat is there, but I might. All right, it's the implication. Oh, then, of course, he flaps in and destroys turrets and guts mineral lines, but... So, a little more explicit, but I digress. So the mutas did get 2 buffs. Neither of them were direct statistical changes. The one buff to the arc slop, which is the... My layman's terms are how forgiving it is to micro the mutas, how easy it is to stutter step them. That's my experience of actually using them. And also they target targets better, which sounds dumb, but the muta does a single attack, the glaive, which bounces through up to 3 targets, doing less damage per hit. Before, usually the muta primary attack would attack the primary target, and then it would go to the nearest target. Whether or not that unit could actually hit the muta. For example, if it's Marines and Marauders, a lot of the time the glaives would bounce to Marauders. Now, within range, the glaives will prioritize bouncing to units that are threats to the muta, like the main attack. Like how most units will only attack things that are a threat immediately, unless you specifically target fire. I think a good example is like a Liberator not in siege mode is not considered a threat to queens, so they won't prioritize it. Whereas a Liberator in siege mode is very much a threat, so they will. Kind of similar with mutas, and even more so now. And that means players like Serral can get a lot more out of them with slightly less effort, because each glaive is more likely to be effective and get a little bit more damage done. Of course, this can be quite directly counteracted by the fact that Widow Mine fires a little bit more than 20% quicker. But Clem never quite had him in position in time. Now, the Reaper and Hellions. Banshee's the choice yet again. And I really don't think... I think it was the lack of Banshees that defined that game, as opposed to the choice to go for them. Better to have built and lost than have not built at all is not necessarily true, no matter how profound it sounds. The queens. Diving in with the Reaper and Hellions. Another relatively quick lair. I guess relatively quick means before investing in evolution chambers. And if he gets 2 more gases here. Hellions keep poking around the edges. The Overlord gets a full... What do you want? Yikes. Overlord serves its purpose. Takes a look around. Banshee. Hellions darting in. Banshee will cloak. Lair is still not even close to done, which means the hatchery, with the help of the Hellions, will be incinerated. Forces the cancel, and Clem landing his 3rd. Serral already up to 57 drones. Baneling Nest is on the way. And Serral, is this a Baneling all in? He doesn't have evolution chambers, but he doesn't have nearly enough gas in order to go for mutas, at least not early on. So, the queens again? They killed Karen. Oh, don't pretend you cared about Karen, Brenda. Well, the Hatchery Owner Association means are going to be a lot quieter now. Not with you around, Brenda. What was that, Susan? Yeah, that's what I thought. I don't... Sorry. I am... backed out for... Baneling speed on the way. Serral going for the mass Zergling. And I wouldn't be surprised to see an infestation pit. Instead of going for... Well, I'm not... Color me not surprised. Whatever color that is. Probably like a... like an olive green. Or possibly a slate blue. Yeah, I'm confident of that. I stand by my words. Well, I sit, usually. It's probably not good for you, but... If it's good enough, make sure to like and subscribe. So I can afford health insurance. Anyway. Speaking of, plenty of queens building up energy. The infestation pit. This time around, Serral's just skipping lair tech almost entirely in order to rush a 7.5 minute. This would have been quick with a 12-worker start. But rushing directly up the tech tree, more like a bamboo shoot at this point. And I can't help but think it's going to be an Ultralisk rush. Clem has a supply lead, as is not too rare when a player is stuck effectively on Lings and Banes, which are quite supply efficient, but hard to get too many at this stage of the game. So you just simply don't have the production. Clem picking off 1 or 2 Banelings at a time. Some great target fire. Siege tank tucked into the corner. Couple Infestors on the way. 1-1 is done for Clem. Not quite there for Serral, but he has Baneling speed and Infestors in production. The Marines. Target down 1 Queen. The 4th base under fire yet again. Clem accidentally picks up some of those Marines. And jacked up and good to go, right, boys? Changeling in a conspicuous position. The Lings and Banes moving around the corner. He needs those upgrades in order to efficiently fight this. And oh, at the last second, the upgrades finishing at that exact moment. The siege tank will be abandoned, effectively. But he does drop out. Meanwhile, another attack to the south. The 5th hatchery will be taken out. 4th command center about to complete. Hive is done. But Serral doesn't quite have the gas. The spores, the sporimeter here. A little bit of a sporus to zone out the medevacs. And the creep extending over to the left side, but on the right, Infestor throws a fungal. Small catch, tries to drag out the Widow Mines. Another mine, Queen out in front. And 5 more Overlords on the way as Serral is hurting. A fungal catches some of the Marines, but the medevacs catch more. Going to try to retake the hatchery, but Clem keeping so much pressure on. Serral has not been able to start the Ultra Cavern, nor Adrenal Glands. He has Hive, but the Frenchman will gun down another set of queens. A classic revolutionary tactic from him. And so far, Serral is holding. But Clem is certainly working around the edges. Adrenal Glands begins. The hatchery canceled yet again. Clem will be landing his 4th command center. He's got 2-2 on the way. The Ultralisk Cavern. He got the Hive so quick, but the Ultra Cavern, there was almost a 1-minute gap, maybe more, after the Hive completed. But Clem is still locked into this mid-game composition. The Marines, the Mines, the Medevacs. Only a few Marauders now being added in. A huge fungal. The Banelings rolling in, dragging the Widow Mines. Most of the Marines able to escape. But this time around... Gets another catch over to the right side, and the Infestors. They don't even need to be burrowed. They stare them in the face. They technically have an auto attack now, though. If you're in a situation you're using it, that's certainly not great. The 2-2 upgrades, picking off 1 Baneling at a time. Serral takes a couple mines with the manual detonation. +2 infantry weapons about to complete. And until there are any Ultralisks, the Widow Mine slams in, softens up some of the Baneling cocoons. And, all right. The all in out with the hatchery. A single Ultralisk on the way. Banelink counterattack. Well, Ling Bane counterattack, but let's be real about which one's more dangerous. Some more pickoffs. Let's go to the Clem. This is your warning. The Clem action camp. Keeping the pressure on. The hatchery this time not canceled. More pickoffs. Not nearly enough energy for Fungal, but a single Banelink gets a little bit too close. Bites off more than he could chew. Caught over to the right side. Serral still finding opportunities to get damage done. Resaturated the bases. More production. Sending out more. He's got 3 different prongs. The tines of this multi-forked attack. But eventually, the Ultras will hit the field. The elephant in the room, and we didn't invite your mother. The Ghost Academy's on the way, as Clem clearly anticipating exactly this, sending out the Liberator, moving in with the army. But the Infestor on the high ground, he knew his moment, and he captured it. Again, Serral catching Clem just ever so slightly off guard. But ever so slightly is enough for many of the Banelings. Still, though, Ultralists do not have kindness plating. That's enough Marauders to be quite a threat. The Liberator will siege. Spore Crawlers and Queens. Meanwhile, those Infestors of Fungal is ready. There's so many Medivacs. The Widowmons doing terrible, terrible damage. But Clem unable to break through. 65 Zerglings, 6 Banelings. But he loses some Mines, Marines, and Marauders. He's adding in the Liberators. There's only a single... This is restricted lair space. They can fly, Brenda. I'm aware of that. Remember when we could fly? Another catch. Another set of kills. But Clem is slowly but surely trading these out for much more anti-Ultralisk army composition. He's got Liberators and Ghosts on the way. The Widowmine slam the point home. A single Infestor badly bruised, a single Marauder. Going to make sure it's out of its misery. But Serral with the battle groups of Infestor, Ultra, Baneling to either side, and Clem finding some seriously diminishing returns on these attacks. But both sides now maxed out. Clem keeping the pressure on. The Lings and Banes closing in. Ultralisk will chew through the planetary fortress. And the Marauders poking through targets the hatchery. It's not quite enough. The Widowmines dragged out. And so far, not finding the critical mass of damage they need. The fourth base. The fourth base was taken out. The potential fifth base will be demoted/promoted to fourth. 3-3 upgrades will finish first for Serral, which is quite rare. But he did go for the Hive Rush. Another set of Queens getting caught out. Gets a single Liberator. Brenda's revenge at the last moment. The Corruptor's coming out as well to help knock everything out of the sky. And that's what he needs as time goes on. But the Baneling's just trickling through into the midst of everything. And most of the army just melts away. And I can't feel... I cannot help but feel. All right, it's a curse and a blessing. And I'm 1/3 Terran myself, so that's clearly the issue. But the damage has been done. That was a critical army. That was Ghosts. That was Liberators. Somehow he didn't get any Medivacs. Clem killed one with the Widowmines. But Serral just keeps holding on either side. Sometimes literally with the Fungals. Rolling in with the Banes, and now with the Corruptors. The hatchery did die. Must have split off. Oh, he split off. Wait, no, those are changelings. I assume a small drop finally kills the hatchery that's plagued him for all this time. His white whale. And Clem's supply is still incredibly high. But Serral has clearly retained the momentum. He's only lost one Infestor. And that's the difference. Like, the life expectancy of his Infestors has to be 3-4 times that of almost anyone else. The Liberators will siege up the Venn diagram of freedom, but Serral brought plenty of acid to counter that base. Just melts right through. The Banelings take out yet another planetary. Clem has expanded to the north. And make no mistake, there is still... It's still a tenuous position with Ultras being exploderated by the Ghosts. With a hatchery being taken down. Clem has expanded to the north, was a little off-center apparently. And Serral does not have much in the bank. How many Ultras? 5 Ultras, 8 Corruptors, 3 Infestors. And just enough of all those 3 food groups to be very difficult for the Terran army to digest. And the Ultras kind of push to the forefront. Ultra taking a lot of damage, doing damage to the command center itself before it could even land. Widowmines taking out big chunks of the Zerglings. lands the command center where it's more vulnerable to the Lings and Ultras. It's surviving a surprising amount of time. Clem is now half his SCVs just aren't even mining. They're long distance mining as he's moving over his second command center. The main base is entirely mined out. There are 3 orbital commands. Burrow is completed for Serral. A second infestor went down. That's Serral. More ghosts than infestors dying, which only happens in below Diamond and above Raynor. But the army being chased, the infestors significantly later on the draw, and the Ultra not enough to break through, but Clem losing SCVs back at home. A single Ultralisk in the mineral line, and the Liberator not quite in position. The Bio Army tearing through. The infestors a huge fungal, and the Banelings will roll past. The Corruptors knock down the Medivacs, and Serral, just like that, takes 2 in a row. And despite the ending, there were so many different moments that could have tilted the other way, as Clem had more army supply for almost the entire game until a single minute, a few minutes ago, and the very end. It's just Serral's ability to divide and conquer well, that's usually the Terran's greatest strength, is how relatively easy it is to partition off units with Medivacs and Liberators. It's intuitive. It's designed that way. Zerg, on the other hand, can do the same. But it takes a significantly greater effort, especially since your anti-air is Queens, Infestors, and Strong Words for most of the game. But the last word is Serral's, as he boxes out the drops, knocks down the Liberators, and brings us to match point. Clearly, the cheaper command centers have helped Clem maintain a lot of production in the mid-game. The fact that he's almost constantly even or ahead on supply, but at the same time, if Serral gets the 4 bases, he looks inevitable. Fear and faith. 2 very important motivators. Here on a map full of tubes. This is a 4-player map, but there are scouting tubes where workers can take a express route directly into your base. So you can spawn in any location, which means you do have to scout through all the bases on the map. And they are in cross positions, which in some ways is good for Zerg, in others not so much. The thing is, I think Serral it's definitely good for. The main struggle for Zerg in defending in huge maps, not large maps, huge maps, like 4-player maps, is the difficulty in splitting off your units efficiently. Because it's a lot easier to send out 20 supply and 2 Medivacs than it is to find the answer to 20 supply and 2 Medivacs before they get there. But Serral, 2 steps ahead means you don't have to sprint. It was interesting, like, I don't even think that he wanted the Ultras as quick. I do think Clem put on a ridiculous amount of prep. Clem with 3 command centers. That wasn't 3 CC before barracks. But it was command center first, into barracks, into 3rd command center. Yeah. Buy 3, get 1 free. With command centers being 100 minerals less. And the orbital command still the same price, so Clem is taking a page from the Maru book of Terrans who don't care that their opponent is in the game and are going to do their build no matter what. I guess that's more Innovation, who was remarkably uninnovative, which... perfect irony there. Double gas behind, but Serral... nobody even tube scouting. He's sending the drone out to make sure the Reaper doesn't block his third, or at least reduce the likelihood. Now, there is no Reaper, but Serral can't know that. It's just going to be a few Marines. Make no mistake, if it was just a roach all-in blindly or something like that, Clem would be probably 100% dead. But Serral's not going to do a blind roach all-in on a 4-player map. Especially not the way it's been going, so... We'll see if having 3 mules before Serral even has a 3rd hatchery is enough of an economic kickstart to allow Clem to claw his way back into this. And he's taking us to McDonald's. Not even a bio-curious build here to start 3 factories. Well, he knows after this time flesh is weak and malleable. That's right, in the Brood War, we used to go mech all the time. Okay, Grandpa. That's cool. You could only select 12, you know, back in the day. I can't even move my wrist now, because, okay, Mech, Terran, great. Grandpa. You whippersnappers still complaining about Protoss? Yeah. I don't... Say hi to Tasteless for me. It's gonna be a mass cyclone build. Begun the Clone Wars have. Now, Serral's gonna spot it. Immediate roach for him. He sees the second factory. The Overlord on the long journey. It took 5 minutes to get here, but he's here now. Interesting to see the immediate response. So, always very helpful for those few of you who actually play. Shout out. All right, and to everyone else, we're more focused on the observer perspective. Very important and much more lucrative. Like and subscribe. The mass hell clone. So, Cyclones with Magfield Accelerator, 50% additional lock-on damage. Blue Flame Hellions with a huge damage increase against light units. So, Zerglings, maybe Hydras. Technically, Queens, Banelings, and your Mother are not light units, so they don't get the bonus. It's just Banelings don't have much HP. Serral gonna rush Burrow move, I think. He's already got Burrow in the way, Roach speed. So, against the Cyclones, you either need Infestors. You can't just fight them directly. Literally, they lock on, and it's almost impossible to chase them down. It's never going to be efficient unless you change the equation somehow. So, we will see. A starport just now on the way knocks out an Overlord. No infestation pit, incredibly notably, which is why I noted it. But Overlord's getting taken out. Clem already has the weapons of mass production. The Industrial Revolution. 5 factories pumping hell clones. Serral is just now getting a 4th hatch. He's going to lose several drones to the Blue Flame Hellions. Meanwhile, oh no, the Queen's already targeted. Without even roach speed. Oh my. This is actually quite uncomfortable, to say the least. Burrow is done, but of course there's scans. Tunneling Claws, Roach Burrow move. Queued up immediately. So clearly the priority here, but the Cyclone's already knocking on the door, and Serral barely has anything to answer. There's just not that many roaches. He's building Clem is building Banshee now. The Overlord. And there's so many of them vulnerable. Serral continually having to build Overlords. The Burrow move Roach, or just the Burrow Roaches, in position to deal with this. Serral trying to... Oh, but there's a Raven! He anticipated it! On Burrows! But a Raven And Clem! It's a disaster. Serral might have the supply lead, but without it infested, that was it. That was the play. He was going burrow move. Now that he's already revealed the fact that he has burrow, the fact that Clem built a Raven, well, I think he's played against Serral enough, but still, the Roaches catch him out. The Cyclones are faster, though. The anti-armor missile will make the Hellions actually quite a counter. And more Cyclones coming up. A Banshee will be completely uncontested. I mean, Serral has the supply, but it's in Roaches, which is the definition of quantity as a quality on its own. He's chasing around the corners, but the Cyclones picking away at the Roaches. Chasing him down. Serral, just more Roaches. 67 to 72 workers. Banshee's speed is on the way, as the Cyclone's just bullying the Roaches across the map. And Serral has he killed a single SCV? Two, actually. Snuck by with a few units, but there's no answer at all to the Banshees. The Raven, just incredible 107 IQ move here out of Clem. Anticipating the greatest weakness of his build, which is the inability to deal with burrow move Roaches reliably. Cyclones will lock on. Serral is maxed out, so he has to go. And the further back the Cyclones are, the less Earth they have to retreat to. He'll bring them to the end of it. The Roaches scurrying forth. The Banshee's adding a lot of damage. Serral has no Carapace upgrades. The Cyclone's being targeted, chased. And over on the right side, Clem microing back as well. But the Banshees are starting to work their way into it. Burrow move again. Gonna lose some SCVs, as the Banshees only do so much damage. There's a planetary fortress at the 4th base, though. And Serral starting to dwindle on supply. 13 drones on the way. A Hydra is done in a hive, as he finally gets the infestation pit. But can he survive the counterattack? There are 5 Banshees now, which is about 5 Banshees too many. There are 4 Queens to potentially deal with it, but with these Cyclones added in, 5 Banshees more than enough to just target down the Queens. He's chasing down the Roaches. Clem? The Clempire strikes back. Clem with the triple CC into battle mech timing. Just tearing right through Serral. And it didn't even look particularly close. That match ended up more one-sided than a Mobius strip. And Clem is on the board. Serral. It's the economy, stupid. Just... No, not you. 3cc, and that's the usual weakness of mech. And why it's a little harder to go for mech on non-like 4-player maps is simply the overhead costs just to get the factories in the first place. But when you get triple C, what is all this? There's like little mineral patches. What is going on this mini map? We got little mineral walls everywhere. We're on Void Storm, one of the maps specifically for this tournament, the Revival Star League, mostly held in Korea, but the grand finals are being held at BlizzCon in September. And the winner of this, I believe, will move on to at least the semifinals, I think. Though the loser will have a chance, as there's a loser's bracket, of course. Which is why I think Serral is participating. I think this is the first season he's participated. So Hero has won like 3 or 4 out of the 5 seasons so far. But Serral and Clem both going the distance here. Void Storm, clearly a reference, if you know, you know, to a different world of Warcraft. It has been in the map pool throughout the entire tournament, so unlikely this is the first time the players have played it. A healing shrine, but with an air blocker down the center. A healing shrine in the middle of the map is quite a thing. Clem with a 1-Rax expand. Not opting for the command center first again. So colorful. I don't know, Serral definitely one of the, if you fool me once, I won't get fooled again, sort of players. Thing is, cross positions on a 4-player map, that was Clem essentially gambling that he'd get away with it. There was about 5 or 6 minutes where he could have just died to any sort of attack. Now, Serral has not done a single sort of attack in the first 5 or 6 minutes of this series, or probably this entire tournament. And he hasn't needed to. Is this the first time he's lost at all throughout this tournament? I'm pretty sure, actually, yes. And a drone goes down, first blood to Clem. Not an ideal start, nor an auspicious one. Another drone is snuck out to the third base. The Reaper still working its way around. Chicanerous and deplorable. Brenda, stop flirting with the... I'm not flirting. Sounds like flirting. Suzanne, All right. A Reaper still chasing some queen tail is how others might phrase it. Looking for those creep tumors. Starport on the way. No third command center out of Clem. Oh. Don't. What? He had the high ground. What was the best case scenario there? That he gets by the Zerglings and... Well, loses the Reaper. The 1-1-1 on the way. No third command center means Clem is very focused on keeping pressure on, making sure Serral doesn't get to that 70-80 drone 4-base mid-game. But it's also an obligation now, because he won't have a competitive economy otherwise. A single evolution chamber on the way. Hellions. Teasing, yet again, the queens. Driving them back. Will they, won't they? Oh, he has the healing shrine. Wait. I don't know if Clem intentionally is poking because he has the healing shrine, or if he just realized it. Because having that healing shrine means it's a lot easier to commit with the Hellions. As long as you keep them alive, they can get healed up without even a need for repair. So... But I'm not 100% sure he was thinking about that. And now the Hellions will dive a little deep and pull out at the last moment. Well, a little bit before, so kind of poor planning there, which is a bit unsatisfying. But well, only 2 SCVs. It could have been worse. And it might still be, as the Zergling's looking for the surround, wraps them into the corner. There's nowhere left to run, or drive, technically. As the Hellions will be taken out. The Banshee can clean up the Zerglings. He may get 1 or 2 more SCVs, no. Banshee takes it out. And no third command center. Did Serral? He can't know that for sure. He did not send an Overlord in. He just got a Zergling close enough to the door. +1 Carapace is on the way, but I feel like Serral has recognized this, as his drone count is quite low, and he's gone for... Is that it? The lair at the third base. I guess wherever it's convenient. Does give a little extra HP to the hatchery. And now the queens. The lair quite far up, but the spore crawlers are done, very importantly. Yeah, the Overseers still going to be relatively far behind. And the Banshees trying to sneak in, but an extra Spore. I don't think there's quite enough, and he has Transfuse, so... Just gives it the healing drool there. Yeah. Banshees. Great stutter flight. We'll take out 3 drones. And Serral's at 70 drones. I take it all back. 70 drones. Clem is... It has to do damage. He has to do damage with this attack. Medevac's on the way. The Banshees will soften up the 4th base somewhat. There's multiple siege tanks. Combat shield is still pretty far off. The Overlord will be taken out. He hid the tanks, but showed the Marines as they were likely going to get scouted either way. Is there a Baneling nest? No. That's the part Serral is missing. The wall is closed. The way is shut. And the Terrans keep it. The way is shut. Meanwhile, though, the attack... Serral, I think he's going to give up this base. He's already got another base on the way to the north. Not even going to make a show of it. All right, some Zerglings, but it ain't going to happen. Without a Bait Nest, without Infestors, it's just not going to happen. So Serral lets that base be amputated for minimal losses, just the base itself. Clem does have his 3rd. 5 Infestors on the way with a Hive already halfway there. The Banshees, the Spore Crawler will outflank them. An impressive move. Just flies directly into the Spore. Will knock out another. Do some damage to the 4th base. The Queen's on their way down. Zoning out the Zerglings to the north side. And the... Oh, no. The Infestors will catch some of the Marines. Throws out another Fungal. And Serral has the upgrade advantage. Obliterates some of the Infestors with the Siege Tank, though. As they still strayed too close. And Serral might win a small victory. But losing the Infestors is costly. He's going to lose the alternative 4th. Clem still creeping upwards in supply, even as the creep recedes. But the Zerglings at the 3rd base going to use the Siege Tank against those SCVs. A Banshee! We'll get taken out. The Knitting Needle's overpowering it. Adrenal Glands on the way. The first and possibly only Hive Tech for the near future. As he's relying on just pure Zergling Infestor. But he does have the upgrade advantage, and Clem is only going for +2 infantry weapons. The Zerglings come back around for another pass. Still, just getting into the mineral line and trying to drag that not-so-friendly fire from the Siege Tank. And... oh, the Infestors. Serral's gone too far. Microbial Shroud, but still the Siege Tank's doing terrible, terrible damage. There's enough. The Fungal, but there's no follow-up. It's just going to make the Medevacs incredibly valuable and very unhappy with the amount of healing they have to do. But Adrenal Gland's still not done. Ultralisk Cavern has begun. But this attack is still potentially deadly. No Banelings at all. No Baneling Nest. More gas for Infestors. But the lack of splash damage is quite apparent. As Clem. The Zerglings from the back. The Infestor looking for the Fungal. Just dodging away. Siege Tank. Fungal catches. The Liberators. A Venn diagram of freedom. Gonna catch some of this. But Serral. He's holding for now. Clem. The Liberators are moving their way up. And, well, the damage. Clem, it's do or die. The Liberator's got to get the damage done. Another Zergling counter. The Marines will stem forward. There's maybe one Fungal. But as long as he stays in the Liberation Zone, the Siege Tank throws out a Fungal, catches the edge. But the Zerglings aren't enough to break through, even with Adrenal Glands. Ricky, the accidental Swarm Host, is in production. Both sides dipping in supply. But time is on Serral's side. The longer this goes on, The more economy Serral has, as long as he doesn't lose too many bases. The Zergling counter's cutting off the reinforcements. Moving forward. A Widow Mine mixed in. Another fungal! He just can't seem to lose those infestors. Not before they get the job done. The Spore Crawler's moving into counter. And what does Clem have left? The Spore Crawlers actually moved out of the main. Which, well, leaving it wide open to the potential drop. Thankfully for Serral, this is not where his hive is. I don't know if there's enough damage to challenge it. The Liberator's overhead. Clem tucked into the base. The Liberator's picking away some of the Zerglings. The damage starting to add up. But will he be able to solve this equation? Will he have enough to deal with it? And the Infestors can't really challenge the Liberators. The Queens are needed, but they're getting run around. And Serral? He's starting to struggle. The Liberators are adding just too much damage. Clem 157. Well, now to 155 supply. The Widow Mines will obliterate most of the counterattack. The Marines and Marauders will handle the rest. The Ultras are popping out, and they have to turn the tides. They got a lot of inertia. But not a unit you want when you're low on economy and you're backed up against a wall. Clem continues his efforts, and the creep and the hatcheries will recede. Eventually, finally, with Microbial Shroud, the Queens will be taking out some of the Liberators. Widow Mine racks up another 9 kills. Liberators over to the right side, but the Spore Crawler's in position yet again, backs off with 1 just barely. Serral with 8 Queens still scattered throughout. But the Ultras and Corruptors, and this is starting to become reminiscent of the game on Ruby Rock, where Clem just kept the pressure on, but not quite enough of it. As the Queens, they'll cost 1 more, but take out yet another Liberator. An Infestor catches the Marines and Marauders. The Ultras trundling through, getting into the midst of everything, trying to take those Widow Mine hits. Microbial Shroud helps out, but not against the mines themselves. Zerglings chasing down. There were Corruptors somewhere to help take out the Liberators and potentially the Medivacs. The Infestors have been doing quite a job of keeping them at bay. And Clem's still slightly ahead on supply. But that all changes when the Corruptor Nation attacked. Down goes 1 Medivac, a single Corruptor to rule them all, and with the Infestors, rise up and bind them. Serral opens up a 20 supply lead and starts a Baneling Nest. The finisher's finishing move. Clem trying to fit a square peg into an increasingly non-existent hole, which does not sound like a great time, and practically is even worse. The Marines and Marauders, without Medivacs and Liberators, those are the real kicker. Marines and Marauders are perfectly good if your opponent actually loses Infestors, which Serral has to an extent. The Drilling Claws drop will actually take out 6 of the drones and force some of the units back, and there's even another Widow Mine at the natural. But the Zergling counterattack, that's the main command center he sent out. Widow Mine drop finds another opportunity. There's no detection at the corner, but Serral, of course, has an Overseer nearby. The Infestors are regaining energy. The Ultralists have built up in number and are mostly relatively healthy. And here comes Clem. For the first time, significantly behind on supply on one of these attacks. And I feel like that trend will continue, unless something drastic happens. A Fungal catches the front line. No Baneling speed is incredibly apparent, but the Fungal helps close the distance. The Zerglings are now an Ultra in the 3rd. But the Bio Army rolling through yet again. Clem with slightly more army supply, but again, the Fungal is thrown out. He catches the Bio. He kills the Bio. The Marines and Marauders eviscerated. The Medivacs forced into a full retreat. Picks off one Ultralisk. But, oh, it's an underwater map. Or whatever it is here. Or gravity doesn't it. Picking off one Ultra at a time. God, those Marauders do so much damage if they're actually able to kite back. Serral's still actually struggling to pin Clem down. He's slippery. But the infestors are still the threat. The Ultralists are... They just can't get close enough to finish it off. And one Corruptor is not enough to reliably take out Medivacs, believe it or not. Picks off some more Banelings. And Clem, not gonna go down easy. Widowmine slams into the Zerglings, even more damage. Ultra's one very unlucky Marauder on the right side. But the Ultras... The Marauder's picking off even more. Clem chased back. Infestors with it. And Serral, he turns it. And now he turns it into a victory. GG! As Serral takes 3 and Clem only 1. And that 1, a kind of one-off triple CC mech build. But every time Serral was allowed to get to Hive Tech was a bad time for Clem. It feels like just a half step ahead, continuing to add up throughout the course of the game. It's the Infestors that bring us to our anti-spoiler bonus game to make sure you weren't so confident in the conclusion, where Serral will face off against his greatest enemy, the Zerg. Serral versus Shin. Serral with some crazy ZVZ, and for the algorithm's sake, we'll just add him in as some anti-spoiler games, but... Serral with a decisive victory. I don't think it was Clem's best series. Though still clearly, like, the raw skill that Clem has is so readily apparent. I guess it's a little more obvious with Terran when things are going well, because of how clear the micro is with Marines, Medivacs, the stutter step, the drop, the target fire. But Serral with just... He's just there. Like, you open up a door, Serral. Open up another door, Serral. Decide to just leave, believe it or not, get into your car, look in the back seat, it's empty. Get out of your car, go into your house, kiss your wife. Oh, it's Serral again! And it has been the whole time. He's deceived you for years. Is that deception, or were you willing to be deceived? I'm willing. I'm just saying. Moving on. A pull first out of Shin. A pull first out of Serral, but a significantly later one, which is actually a strong counter to the earlier pull aggression. There's kind of a rock, paper, scissors sort of triangle. Of course, you can shave away some of the edges with micro and deception, but an early pull, like a 10 or 12 pull, is relatively easily countered by a later pool before hatchery. But a hatchery first is countered by said early pool. So if you go for an early pool, we'll call it an eco pool, against an eco pool, you're in trouble. But if they go hatch first, it might be double. So that's the give and take. And Shin, with a hidden hatchery, it's a fake. He's faking that he's doing a Zergling all-in, but he is doing a Zergling all-in. Which begs the question, and the letter, oh, why? So, Serral is looking to see if there's a hatchery on the way. Because that would indicate, well, if there's no second base, then he's doing like a speed or a roach all-in even. And that gets Serral to build not one, but 2 spines. And if Shin actually takes out this hatch... Oh, he wants to kill Serral's hatchery. Okay, this is it. Serral might not commit fully to the defense because he thinks that there's going to be speed. The hatchery is canceled at the last second. So this actually worked. Okay. This is one of those strategies that only works if your opponent is really good. So Serral is willing to give up the hatchery because he's assuming that Shin does not have one. But they were all of them deceived. For another hatchery was made at the 3rd base. Now, the awkward part is that, despite this, Shin still has... He's still significantly behind on economy because he didn't have many drones, because he built a bunch of Zerglings early. That's how it works. But, so, will this deception pay off for him? As Serral did only send out one Overlord. He's sending this down. I think he's starting to get a little suspicious. Because even if he went for a 1 base, it should have either come out of the base at this point, or he should have had a hatchery. But he's going to see the creep. He figures it out. He realizes he's been bamboozled. But in the end, will it matter? Because, Shin, where are you going with these drones? Serral probably wondering the same thing. Alright, this is like a Twitch chat play right here. What if you took your base at your 3rd so they don't know you're expanding? Okay, alright. How's the Diamond League? And then you just go for 1 base Nidus, which they won't expect because then they... So, Serral's slipping out with the Zerglings. Feels like he tried to hide that, but Shin definitely saw it. The Overlord did... Overlord get... Not my words. The Banelings on the way. Baneling nest on the way for Shin, but... Yeah, Baneling's already in production. Serral has speed done. Shin does not. He's just, again, a half step behind. The only thing Shin has are a few more drones. But his bases are split, which is a clear weakness. The Baneling's crashing in. He may just go, yeah, there's only a single Bane. That needs to save him. It did okay. The Banelings are chasing the drones. It's a disaster. Like, Shin, he's using the Banelings as a force field here. Trying to maximize the usage. 5 drones dead. That was the last Bane. Which means now Shin actually has the Zergling momentum. Not lead necessarily, but they move pretty fast. That's their whole thing. The Overlords will be split. The Queens. Zerglings. Well, okay. He's not in as deep Shin as it original. Well, Serral has +1 Carapace on the way. I was wondering. And he gets it and kills a couple more drones, which is almost 10% of the economy at this point. So, Serral still has most of the advantages. But Shin is not dead, so he's got that going for him, which is nice. A Baneling... Shin intercepted Serral's Zerglings. Clever girl. Knocks several of them out. But +1 Carapace is about to complete, which allows Zerglings to survive a Baneling hit. They're not happy about it. They have like 1 HP left, but that's better than none HP. Because 1 Zergling can potentially trigger 2 Banelings, is the key point by far. The Baneling on Baneling interaction is the same. 2 Banelings to kill 1 Bane. Which, a little ironic, but... Meanwhile, Zerglings in the main is Serral just clawing away at any semblance of economic lead Shin has. Semblance, not actual lead. He's behind by 5 workers. He's behind by 1 upgrade. His 3rd hatchery is about 30 seconds behind. The Roach weren't even. Again, it's just Serral. Even in Zerg versus Zerg. Shin with... Oh yeah, the Healing Shrine. I can't help but feel when players go... So far, it's both looked like Clem, Shin, and Serral have gone by the Healing Shrine and been like, oh, a Healing Shrine. As opposed to factoring it in. Percival would be ashamed of this gameplay. He'd be using the Healing Shrine for all it's worth. But Percival, I believe, got destroyed by... Ah, Shin. He exploded all his Banelings, man. That was Shin doing that, right? I'm not crazy. So, we've all been there. You get old and you start exploding your Banelings manually, and... Well, a premature detonation is nothing to be ashamed of, but it isn't going to help your tournament chances. It was Serral. It was Serral. All right. Well, Serral's getting older. Either way. Maybe I'm the... how's the back? Surprisingly fine for City all day. All right. Which is good for my sit-down comedy routine. Thank you for enjoying. This will be on Netflix later. The double baneling slam in, but not as decisive as if he didn't have that +1 carapace. Serral's up by 10 workers. He's going to have a 2-upgrade advantage with more roaches. So, unless Shin... Okay, not quite more roaches. But unless Shin finds a miracle, or Serral decides to go AFK, despite the supplies, Serral is leaps and bounds ahead now. If the +1 attack finishes, which it will, in 10 seconds, it's almost impossible to see Shin coming out ahead. But for this exact moment, he has more army supply. The banelings will zone out. The queens are pulled. The drones, but he micros back with the mineral walk. Shin finding this timing. The queens helping to hold the line. A spine crawler's about to complete. And by the skin of his weird Zerg teeth, it seems like Serral may just barely hold. Shin picked his timing well. He put it all together. And it was his best case scenario. Unfortunately, his best was simply not good enough. Serral with a decisive victory at the end. Still, a little dicey. Shin with some clever plays. But much like Clem, unable to break through, the finisher comes out ahead. And come any hot fix or patch, it seems like Serral still towers above. Emotionally, physically, mentally. Who will stop him? That wasn't rhetorical. It's unclear at this stage. The intern can't even stop him. Not yet. Maybe next patch. Well, thank you for watching. I hope I made your day at least a little bit better. And if you got the means of motivation, be awesome to check out Patreon or YouTube membership. But I hear liking and subscribing is still free. At least for now. We're working towards 300k subs. Which, pretty crazy number. And thank you to our top tier patrons. Big Jiggy Decker Devin, Door Magwan, Mario P, Sasquatch, and everyone. And make sure to check out this video. Jimmy picked it out just for you. Hope to see you next time. Good luck. Have fun. Thank you for watching. Stay chill.